We are grateful to be joined today by Dr. Ray Deppa and remotely by Mr. John Yelton. Dr. Deppa is a board-certified anesthesiologist with over 20 years' experience. He has been a managing partner and a shareholder with his practice, Kentucky Anesthesia Group. He's a veteran of the United States Navy, where he had the privilege of serving military members on active duty as an anesthesiologist. John Yelton is the Director of Project Management, Certificate Product, and Processes for the Certifying Board Services at the American Osteopathic Association. He has spent the past 6 years at the AOA working to advance the interests of osteopathic physicians and students in board certification. Most recently, he is facilitating the transition away from the traditional recertification exam to a longitudinal assessment model for Component 3 of the Osteopathic Continuous Certification. Dr. Deppa and Mr. Yelton will provide an AOBA update for us today during today's session. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Deppa and Mr. Yelton.
Thank you, Dr. Dinan. Good afternoon, everyone. It's as a member of this college for the past 20 years, it's an incredible privilege for me to be up here and be able to serve you in a different capacity. So thank you to the Board of Governors for all your hard work and leadership that you've provided over the past decades. And this college has certainly meant a lot to me and my family. So thank you. Again, my name is Ray Deppa. I'm a private practice anesthesiologist. I'm not in academic medicine, but I've had the privilege of serving on the Bureau of Osteopathic Specialists. The BOS is the governing body for all AOA certification. We deliver nearly 200 exams through the 16 specialties and subspecialties. I'm the immediate past chair. I'm now serving on the BOS rep for the Bureau of Education. So again, it's been a privilege for me to serve in that capacity. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine doing this. But thank you. Just a brief overview of the road to certification. It's amazing to see the number of medical students and residents that are now members of the AOCA. So I felt it important for them just to know that we are the certifying body for osteopathic anesthesiologists. At the end of your CA2 year, you can sit for your high-stakes written exam. At the completion of your CA3 year, you're eligible to sit for the oral exam. What that allows is when you complete your residency and then do a full year of practice, you're eligible to take what is referred to as the clinical exam. Completion of these 3 steps of the examination process will result in you being board certified by the AOBA. These are some important dates. Obviously, the slide is very busy. On your left are the exams that we have scheduled for this last half of the year, and on the right are exams that are scheduled for the first half of the year. All of this information is contained within the AOBA website. We'll be going over the changes that have been made to the longitudinal assessment segment, which is in the bottom left-hand corner that's highlighted with the square. But just wanted to give you a little brief information about some of these dates and deadlines and things of that nature. Another way to obtain AOA certification, it's been almost 2 years, but we created a pathway for ABMS certified DOs who would like to essentially come home back to the AOA and become board certified by the AOA. And to date, we've had about a little over 800 physicians who've applied through this pathway, and a little over 550 have been accepted. Of that, we've been fortunate to have about 30 anesthesiologists join the AOBA and go into the recertification process. So this is an ongoing effort, and again, the focus is to bring ABMS certified DOs back home. There are some links here. If you have colleagues, I got one of my colleagues to join. If you have colleagues who are interested in, instead of doing MOCA with ABA, they can come and do OCC with us. So, and I'll go over some of the advantages of OCC. In addition to that, the AOA has been very busy over the past 2 years. There's been conversations of switching to remote proctored exams. COVID accelerated this process, as you all know, in an effort to ensure that candidates and diplomats were not harmed by the pandemic. The AOA was very aggressive in leveraging technology to remove our exams, getting away from the Scantrons and number 2 pencils and things of that nature to going to high stakes remote proctored exams. Every single one of our exams now that the AOA provides is through a remote proctored platform. The one that the AOA is using is Monitor EDU and Paradigm. The clinical exam was also met with some hurdles due to the pandemic. The AOBA board was, again, very aggressive in ensuring that our candidates that were in the examination process were not harmed by this. It did take some delay in getting approval through the bureaucracy of the AOA to get their alternative approved. What they did instead was basically a case defense that candidates will now do online. So it's a little bit different than what the vast majority of us have participated in, which is a direct interaction with an examiner in a hospital with a case review. This now involves a case review with 2 examiners and then defense of these cases by the examiners, again, through a remote proctored process. Those of us who have time-limited certificates, or for those of you who are volunteering to participate in OCC, there have been some changes here. There used to be a CME cycle, and this idea that our certificates were valid for 10 years, that's all been shifted to now where we're doing a continuous process in terms of managing your certification. So that's been in line now with what used to be referred to as the CME cycle. So the CME cycle, or the OCC cycle, started this year, January 1st of 2022. It will end December 31st of 2024. So we brought those in line. And again, OCC, or recertification, is a continuum. It's not that you take an exam, a high-stakes exam, and 10 years later, you're certified. It's a continual process. In fact, the certificates, we removed the expiration dates, which is consistent with what ABMS boards have done as well, because again, the recertification process is a continual process. And there are 4 components to this, and we'll go over those very briefly. Component 1 is diplomats must have a license in one of the 50 states, or District of Columbia, or U.S. territory. If there are restrictions placed on your license, there is a mechanism in place within the Bureau that will evaluate physicians whose licenses have been placed on restriction. There is also a process to remove your certification depending on the level of restriction. Component 2 is the lifelong learning piece. That's where the AOBA has determined that diplomats, anesthesiologists must maintain 75 CMEs every 3 years. 18 of that has to be a Category 1A. The other CMEs have to be within your specialty, have to be specialty-specific CME. There is a guide, which is pretty comprehensive. It explains what is accepted as 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, etc. ACLS, PALS, things of that nature also qualify. If you're an item writer, you can get CME for that. Oral examiner participating in the clinical exam also will get you CME. Component 3, this has probably been the biggest change here recently. Again, leveraging technology. About 5 years ago, we went away from the 10-year high-stakes exam. I took that exam, and I spent about 6 months going to the library and studying, and I swore I would never do this again. So we switched at the time to using a very archaic LMS system that the AOA had, but that allowed us to deliver a online assessment to the diplomat, 50 questions that they had to complete over about a 30-day period that was open book. And I think that was met with some success. However, as I said before, I feel like in a baseball game, maybe we hit a double. We weren't home. Anticipating that we'd be moving to this new system, which we will be delivering starting in January. And Mr. Yelton, the project manager for this, working with the MBO and me, it's called Catalyst. You'll be able to see a little more in depth about that. It's a tool, a platform that you can use on your phone, you can use on your mobile device. There's 30 questions per year that you have to do. It's very user-friendly. It'll also show how you're doing compared to other anesthesiologists who are in your cohort as well. If you happen to miss the question, there's reference material there as well, which you can go and look it up. So I think you have to achieve a 70 to get it. So, and you have like 30-day window to do these questions. So I think you'll like it. Component 4, this is the practice performance assessment. I've always felt as an anesthesiologist, this is probably one of the easier hurdles to get, since most of us practice in a hospital and we are subject to tremendous scrutiny from quality managers and all this other kind of stuff. But basically what this is, you have to participate in some kind of quality performance improvement project, say at your hospital. There's some examples here. Physicians who are non-hospital based, I think, have a tendency to have some difficulty achieving this hurdle. That being said, we did switch it to where you just go online. It's an attestation you have to do once every 3 years, and then you just list what you're participating in. So if you're participating in the MIPS program through CMS, or my group does AQI, I'm on some quality review committees at the hospital, just notate that in the section. The board does query a certain percentage of attestations just to make sure that in fact you are participating in this. So. Last year, the AOA started an ambassador program. This is a peer-to-peer initiative, an outreach program, if you will, kind of using that's a ground up program, if you will. They started using or looking at programs that were historically osteopathic prior to the single accreditation program. And there's 50 programs that this has been rolled out to, mostly in family medicine, internal medicine, OBGYN. Eventually, they want to roll this out to all the specialties. But those of you who are in academic medicine, certainly you can be ambassadors, speaking to residents, medical students about the advantages of being certified by the American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiologists. A clinical pathway for addiction medicine was opened. The AOBA is part of this conjoint. It's been very successful. I think they have 400 people who've set for the exam through the AOA. The Bureau increased the clinical pathway for another 3 years. So for those of you out there who are participating or practicing addiction medicine, if you'd like to become certified, you can go to the AOBA website. There's eligibility criteria. That pathway remains open. The AOA implemented a self-reporting system this year. If you come to an amazing meeting like this, obviously use the QR code, and your CMEs will be logged for you through the amazing folks at the AOCA. However, if you do PALS or ACLS or go to the ASA conference, you have to do that yourself. So the AOA has created a very easy process where you scan that on your computer, download that PDF into that, and off it goes. If you're an AOA member, there's no fee. If you are not an AOA member, however, you are AOBA certified, they do charge a small fee. I think it's $199 there. If you are neither AOBA certified nor an AOA member, they do charge $299 for that fee. But again, if you are an AOA member, this is a fee. This is something provided for you. And it's very simple. I logged ACLS PALS. It takes seconds to do. And then within 2 days, you'll get a new update for your CME report. Obviously, like all organizations, we're looking for volunteers. We need folks to help write questions, participate in oral exams, as well as the new clinical exam that's been developed by the board. And there's plenty of other opportunities to participate or volunteer and give back to these organizations, which have benefited all of us. Last, I'd just like to thank the members. These are the members of the AOBA currently. It's a volunteer board. They put a tremendous amount of time, effort, and energy, just like our Board of Governors for the AOCA. And they've done an amazing amount of work to move us into the next century of technology and examination. Dr. Chowdhury is here if you have any questions. I'm sure he'd make himself available for that. Dr. David Paul. Dr. Escher is here, a new Board of Governor. He's one of our past chairs of the board, and I'm sure he'd be very happy to speak to you if you have any questions. And finally, I just want to thank the folks at Certifying Board Services. The director of the Bureau is Jessica Seiler. She used to work with us, the AOCA. She's now the managing director for the Bureau. I'd also like to thank Shaughnessy Baguette, Daniel Hart, Mr. Jonathan Yelton, the new Vice President for Certifying Board Services, Maura Brzezinski. And then, of course, you're going to meet Mr. Yelton here in a minute. He's a project manager who's been tasked with moving all of the recertification exams into this MBOME Catalyst system. So, and I'd like to thank the subject matter experts that have helped me write questions for OCC. I'll throw them under the bus here. If you have any questions about the questions, you can contact them. But Dr. Tanya Schnell, Dr. Helen Bean, Dr. Brett Groff, and Dr. David Paul. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Yelton.
Hello, my name is John Yelton, and I'm the Director of Project Management for all certification products and processes at the American Osteopathic Association. It's my privilege to be able to speak on behalf of the American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiology today, giving you an update on the OCC Component 3 longitudinal assessment. This is the assessment annual requirement that's taken place of the 10-year high-stakes exam that you may be used to. Without further ado, I will move myself down and out of the way here, and we'll get right into it. So first, I want to talk about why we chose longitudinal assessment. And it has to do mainly with the benefits that it brings to you, the diplomate. It maximizes convenience so that you can take the assessment on your own time, at your own pace, wherever you find yourself, minimizing time and expense for you. There's no travel to a testing center. There's no crunch studying for an exam that snuck up on you. There's no 4 hours in front of a random proctor that's watching you exam. This is an open book assessment that's taken on your own time from your home office or on a train, wherever you might find yourself when you want to answer a question. You can answer the questions from your phone, a tablet, or a laptop or desktop, anything that connects to the internet. Although we aren't providing it on smartwatches just yet, and I don't think anybody's interested in that option. So phones, tablets, and laptops, desktops, if you have them, you can answer the assessment at any time. It is giving you immediate feedback when you answer those questions. That's going to be in the form of a rationale, which explains why you're right or why you are incorrect. It will also give you a reference so that you can go and study more if you need to. That reference is what the item writer used to write the item. So it gives you insight into why the item was written, and it gives you a defensible reference for why the answer is or isn't correct. Continuous learning is what we're really focusing on. This helps us to validate your certification as a prestigious certification in anesthesiology. We're ensuring that you're bringing patient safety to a front and center standpoint of your certification. And this assessment gives us a touch point annually with you so we can make sure you're staying up to date on current affairs and critical learning for your profession. The American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiology actually created an objective statement for this longitudinal assessment, which states, to provide high quality, effective evaluation of our diplomates, to ensure the safety of our community and the patients we treat, while allowing greater flexibility to meet the OCC Component 3 requirement. The format is designed for convenient access of questions for the diplomate, relevant questions, and allows diplomates the freedom to choose questions and the customized process while in keeping with the true spirit of continuous learning. I do believe at this point we have met many, if not all of those points, although I will highlight that currently we have a 30-item assessment that's provided to you. We haven't quite been able to create the item bank that we need in order for you to be able to choose questions in a customized process, but is the hope and goal of the board to be able to provide content areas in the future that you can choose from, building your own learning on an annual basis within the certification assessment. The assessment specifics, if you will now look here, you'll see that registration for the longitudinal assessment is a key part of becoming involved in the longitudinal assessment. Any diplomates who have participated in the cognitive assessment that was provided in 2019 through 2021, this was an assessment that you had to do once within the 3-year cycle. You should be participating in the longitudinal assessment now in 2022. If you participated in that 3-year cognitive assessment in which you took an open book assessment on our LMS, you should be participating now. So if you are not, you need to contact the American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiology to get more information on how to gain access to the 2022's assessment, which is available now. But that assessment will be provided in November, and you want to make sure that you are all ready to go when that becomes available. Diplomates whose certifications were issued before January 1st, 2022. So anyone who has a 10-year certificate that was issued to you before January 1st of 2022, you're required to begin the longitudinal assessment in the expiration year of that 10-year certificate. So for example, if your expiration year is 2022, you should also be participating in the longitudinal assessment now. And you might have to reach out to the American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiology to make sure that you are up to date. If your expiration date is in 2023, you will be registering for the longitudinal assessment now. Registration will always be the fall prior to the assessment's administration so that we're able to make sure everyone who needs access has access. So if your expiration year of your certificate is 2023, the registration is currently open for that assessment, and you should go ahead and register now. If your expiration year is in 2024 or beyond, you'll be registering in the fall of the year prior. So 2024, you'll register in 2023 in the fall, and you will gain access in January 2024. 2025 will register in 2024, and so on and so forth. For the 2023 longitudinal assessment registration, which we just touched on, I wanted to let you all know that the registration is available through October 24th. So you want to make sure that you get registered for that if that is something that you should be doing. Anyone who is currently participating in longitudinal assessment should be registering for next year. It is an annual requirement which you will register for annually. So if you are participating in the 2022 assessment, you will need to register for the 2023 assessment. If your 10-year certificate is expiring in 2023, you need to register now for the 2023 assessment. That assessment will become available in January of 2023 on Catalyst, which is the NBOME's platform for longitudinal assessments. I've talked a little bit about 3-year cycles up to this point, and I just wanted to put a note here that shows you that the 3-year cycle coincides with what you might historically have known as the CME cycle. So we are currently in the 2022 to 2024 cycle, including the 3 years, 22, 23, and 24. The next cycle will be 25 to 27, and each cycle thereafter will be 3 years. The requirements for longitudinal assessment are that the diplomates, you all, will answer 30 untimed multiple choice questions related to topics on the OCC's table of specifications. These will be 30 questions that will be given out in a random order to each of the diplomates on the assessment and can be taken at your own pace. You will have a total of 2 attempts to get the correct answer. Diplomates must achieve that 70% grade on the assessment and a 70% cumulative grade at the conclusion of each 3-year cycle. So at the end of each year, you're shooting for a 70% out of those 30 questions. And at the end of the 3-year cycle, a cumulative 70% grade will be needed out of the collective 90 questions from each of those 3 years. In 2022, this current year, if you are participating or should be participating, the assessment you may have noticed is still on the AOA's online learning site. We are transitioning to NBOME's Catalyst, but currently we are offering the assessment on our site. The requirements became an annual requirement during the current 22 to 2024 cycle. So if you're participating now, you'll be expected to participate on an annual basis going forward. The first attempt for the 2022 assessment was from June 1st to June 30th. It was the full 30-item assessment available to you. If you did not achieve the 70%, you will be given a second attempt in November. November 1st through November 30th will be the second and final attempt. If you should be participating in 2022, that will be your one and only attempt if you have not registered and taken part at this point. So if your expiration year is this year, or if you question and feel that you should be participating in 2022, please reach out to our office, the American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiology, so we can be sure to set you on the right path. For 2023 and beyond, anyone participating will have the assessment on NBOME's Catalyst. It'll be an annual requirement, as it has been before, but it will run from January to September for the first attempt. You will have 9 months to be able to participate in the assessment at your own pace and answer those 30 items. Then from October to December 15th, you'll have a second attempt at the incorrect answered questions to build upon what you answered the previous 9 months. So by the end of that year, you should have a 70% for your assessment. A single attempt of anything that you got correct, and then October to December 15th, anything that you got incorrect, you'll have a chance to answer correctly and get that added to your score overall for hopefully a 70%. So the Catalyst platform may be difficult to see the screenshots that I've taken here, but this is a preview of what your questions will look like on the platform. You'll receive items, again, from your computer, tablet, or mobile device. They are untimed, and anytime you answer a question incorrectly, a reference and the correct answer will be provided. You will see here that this is a sample item that we've provided. Someone answered it incorrectly, so it's showing an X by the question. Their chosen answer is highlighted here for them, showing what they said the answer was. And then in green, it lets you know what the correct answer to the question actually is. Underneath that, within the same screen, but I had to take a separate screenshot, you will see an expandable rationale letting you know why that answer is correct and your answer was wrong. Or it'll let you know why you were correct if you were to say MRI of the brain. And then underneath that, the reference for you to be able to look further into the subject. There may or may not be a link directly to the article, but it will be a citation so that you can look further if need be. And we also let you know the table of specification content area that we're focusing on as well. So here we have a screenshot of the dashboard of the Catalyst platform. You can see 3 columns here, the first being your comparative performance. It's how you're stacking up against your colleagues. Of course, we're all shooting for 70%, but it's nice to know how you're doing comparatively. The middle column is your individual performance, letting you know how many items you have, how many are remaining, how many you've gotten correct, and how many incorrect. And finally, you can see your assessment details in the third column, which show how many days you have left to answer the assessment and what's the percentage of the assessment that you have completed at this point. You'll also see on the far left-hand side here a couple of tabs. The dashboard is the top one, and that's what you're seeing here. Assessment design will show you what areas of the assessment are included in your assessment. The assessment tab itself will be how you access the questions for the assessment. The review tab is where you can go to review the items that you have answered, reading rationales and references as need be. And the info tab will be some information about the assessment itself, as well as some links to your board's website for more information. With that, I will end my presentation, but before I do, I just wanted to give a nod to the people working hard over at the American Osteopathic Board of Anesthesiology. These are the staff who you can connect with in order to get more information about when you should participate or how you can participate in the longitudinal assessment. Of course, we are always looking for subject matter experts to help build out the bank of items that we'll be using for the assessment. And if you're interested in being a significant contributor, please contact Katrina Matthews, the certification director, or Kate Jackson, the certification specialist. You can email them there, the email that you see presented, or the phone number that's provided as well. And that is aoba@osteopathic.org, phone number 312-202-8279. Thank you all for letting me present to you today. I will, of course, be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. We're running a little behind schedule. We'll take maybe 4 minutes for questions, and then we'll arrange a means afterwards offline. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, please come to the mic. If not, we can do it offline later. Could you, if you don't mind doing it in the mic, that way it goes to the folks online as well.
What will be the cost of this?
Mr. Yelton, I'll give that to you. They're asking what will be the cost of this?
That's a great question. Offhand, I do not know, but I can bring that up here in a moment. I'm at my computer, so I'll just go to the website and find that out for you. If we want to go to the next question while I do that, I'll plug it into the next answer.
Okay. Dr. Vandergraaf's got 210 annually, which I believe in general is cheaper than the ABA, number one. Number two, it's gone to an annual fee versus one big fee over 10 years. So, Mr. Yelton, if you could confirm that number.
I will. It is typically, we've taken the registration application fee for the 10-year exam, and we've divided it by 10 or so. So
okay.
It might be a little higher than that division,
Okay.
but I'll confirm that number for you momentarily.
Okay. Dr. Escher?
Ray, for those who do say they don't need to participate, they're not required to, or they're not going to have to for several years, is there any penalty to registering for the longitudinal assessment and participating? Is that an issue, or are we even allowed to?
So if I understand your question, if you do not have to participate in OCC, but you voluntarily do, and let's say things don't go well and you don't pass the exam, is that kind of what I'm getting at?
Well, just the fact that you want to participate for your own self-education, is there any penalty?
So the folks that have a non-time limited certificate, you never lose that. So if you choose to voluntarily participate in OCC and again, things don't go well, I hate to say this, but you probably shouldn't be practicing anesthesia if that's the case. However, if things don't go well, you will never lose your initial non-timed certificate. For those of us who have a timed certificate, if things don't go well, we shouldn't be practicing anesthesia either, but we would lose our certification.
So if you did voluntarily participate, would you be eligible to earn CME from this?
That is, so you can earn CME by taking exams and things of that nature, but it's very limited. So, but that's, again, not something that we built into the CME system. We look at CME as coming to an amazing conference like this, whether it's virtual or live, journaling, things of that nature. So,
Thank you very, very much, both of you.
And if I can just shortly speak, I did confirm that it is the OCC fee is $210 annually, so that's what you would be expected to pay annually.
Thank you very much.